Hello, everybody, and welcome to the top 5 new comics for February 20th and 21st of 2024. I'm, as always, Chris. I've got a cool slate of books for this week, so let's dive right in, starting with Ultimate Spider-Man #2. This is written by Jonathan Hickman with art by Marco Checchetto. When the announcement that the Ultimate Universe was coming back happened, I was so excited. I was such a huge fan of the Ultimate Universe and everything that went into it. For so long, I just thought it was a cool alternate universe to have, where I talked about a lot when issue 1 came out, but where consequences mattered. We didn't really do retcons and all this. And along the way, we did break some of those rules, but for the most part, it stuck with these things, and I just really loved it. And it was a way to tell new stories with familiar characters in a different world. And they announced the Ultimate Universe coming back. Now, it wasn't like a one-for-one, we're just stripping away the ending of the Ultimate Universe and starting. It's a brand new Ultimate Universe, but with the same kind of concepts in play. So we've got this new world where things are happening. And the Ultimate Universe has to kick off, like any good Marvel universe has to kick off, with Spider-Man. So Spider-Man 1, Ultimate Spider-Man 1 came out, and I loved that issue. As somebody in his mid-30s, as somebody who's dealing with a lot of the things that Peter's dealing with in this issue, or that issue, it all rung true to me as just a man who's had his life, is at the stage, and just feels that something's wrong, feels that there needs to be some sort of change. Now, for Peter, there's an obvious one. He's missing a hole inside of him, and that hole is Spider-Man. And he doesn't realize it until these people come to him and say, you were meant to be this person, you were meant to be this icon, and we can give it back to you. So, spoiler alert for the end of issue 1, but Peter ends up taking that dive to become Spider-Man. And now we're in issue 2. We've got the background, who the character is, what version of Peter we're dealing with, and where he is in his life. And now he's Spider-Man again. And we get to see him do Spider-Man stuff, I guess. Not only do we got glimpses of some supervillains in the last issue, but in this one, we really get to see Spider-Man fight a supervillain for the first time. I mean, it's on the cover, so I feel like it's going to be Green Goblin. But I'm just really excited for everything in here. The different interactions. Once again, spoilers for issue 1. Hopefully you read it. But the fact that it's Uncle Ben alive and not married, or Aunt May. The fact that he's married with kids with MJ. These create a different universe for Peter to live in. He has different things to think about and different consequences for his actions. So there's just so much here that I'm really, really enjoying. Only one issue in, and I've just, all these thoughts and all these things are coming through. So Hickman and crew have designed a really great book here, and I just cannot wait to dive deeper into the Ultimate Universe. After that, got Batman Superman World's Finest #24. This is written by Mark Waid with art by Dan Mora. I'm always the one to try out a new World's Finest book. I love the pairing, but World's Finest is a tough book. Not everybody can pull it off. Not every story with Batman and Superman teaming up is worth telling. Mark Waid, coming back to DC after a long hiatus, managed to do exactly that, create a World's Finest books that's worth telling. And I've talked about it many times, but I love that it's kind of out of continuity while still being in continuity. It's in its own place, and we don't have to worry about the events of modern DC to tell these great stories. And this one in particular, we go back to a classic. We go back to Kingdom Come, and we get to have our Batman Superman interact with that Batman Superman and deal with consequences on that world. I really hope that this issue, while this being the last issue of that story arc, it needs to answer some questions. Where are we in that timeline? I feel like we're after the events of Kingdom Come, but there's been hints that it's before the events of Kingdom Come. there's some continuity things that are kind of out of place that I can see that I know other people I know that read in my circle are also seeing. So there is a lot of questions to be asked, but even if you ignore all that and just enjoy the story for what it is, it's been a blast this last story arc. And the entire book, I can't think of a single story arc in this book that I didn't enjoy at the very least. It's such a special book, and I'm just so glad when a writer's been around for as long as Mark Waid has, you're going to have stinkers along the way. You can't bat 1,000. Not every book, not everything you write is the best. Mark Waid has a very good track record of having really good books. And he's a guy that's earned the right for me to say, if Mark Waid's writing it, I'm trying it. And to see him come back to DC after all this time, when you might think that he's already told all the stories he wants to tell in that world, well, that's not true, because he's proving it here that he has more he wants to tell with this, Shazam, others, and is killing it at it. So the book's been a blast. And like I said a little bit earlier, it's a little bittersweet. It's the last issue of this story arc, but we got a tease in the annual what the next story arc is, and I'm so excited to see what he has in store for those characters. So, World's Finest. If you're new, this is probably not the great place to jump on. I suggest going back and starting at the beginning and reading through. But I can guarantee you it'll be on the top 5 for that month. If you're looking for a place to start, next month's issue is probably going to be a good place to start. After that, I've got Superman number 11. This is written by Joshua Williamson with art by David Baldeon. Baldeon? I think it's Baldeon. Superman, another book that is really hit or miss in my eyes. Like, there's so much to Superman that you have to juggle. I think, first of all, Superman has to be a bright and uplifting comic book. Superman you have to juggle his superpowers. Like, he is kind of the butt of the joke in the superhero world that he has all the powers. No, that's not true, but that's the perception of him. And it is kind of true. So you have to find ways to put him in situations that make it difficult for him. That's a little bit easier, but still that's something to juggle. And then you have to just juggle the whole mythos of his character, which pretty much every superhero character, you have to deal with that. But with Superman, there's just an extra layer. So when I try a new Superman book, it comes with baggage immediately. And I find some of the older books I've read in the Superman mythos to be more enjoyable. This one has been a blast. 11 issues in, I really enjoy what Joshua Williamson's doing with the character. He does all those things I talked about. The twist of it being that, like, Lex is in jail and he hands over LexCorp to Superman, so now it's Supercorp. And so now he's not only Superman, but he's in charge of this giant corporation and trying to use that to help him do all these great things across the metropolis. Last issue, we got to see him in the Wild West. That was kind of fun. One issue, we got a background to that the night character who only shows up at night on her horse, has some connection to the Wild West. We're going to see more of her in the future. But when he comes back, spoilers for the last issue, it's right there on the cover, everybody. He meets with this group who actually ambushes him, and they're the Lex Luthor Revenge Squad, and they want Superman to join them to take out Lex. And it's all familiar characters we've seen throughout the run so far. And now we get to see what that interaction is. I'm pretty confident saying that Superman ain't joining. These are bad, bad people. Superman doesn't do bad. Yeah, just the Superman book Williamson's writing here is just phenomenal. If you're a Superman fan, this is the book to jump on, because I just think it's been the best one I've read in a while in modern terms. And it's just so much fun from top to bottom. And we have a new artist on this issue. There's been a few artists throughout the run, but they've all been phenomenal. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think that Superman's really worth everyone's time right now. Don't sleep on it. After that, Got Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, number 5. This is written by Brian Buccellato with art by Christian Duce. As I'm going through the books, I'm going to choose. Some weeks are easier than others. Some weeks are heavier than others. Some weeks are lighter. This turned out to be a lighter week for me personally. Last week was a very heavy comic week for me. And I wanted to sing the praises of this crossover with Legendary Comics and DC because it's just so much fun. The first issue, a little slow, but once we got into the groove of this book, it's just been a blast. It's right there in the title. Justice League is fighting kaiju creatures. We've got Kong doing his thing on Skull Island. We got Godzilla attacking Metropolis. We've got this bat kaiju attacking Gotham because that's what bats do. And then this underwater kaiju attacking Atlantis in the last issue, and Aquaman deciding to release the Kraken to fight it. Like, this isn't a very deep book. If you're looking for the next Watchmen or the next Dark Knight or whatever, this ain't it. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's really well written. I love the pacing throughout it. The art's great. The panel work's phenomenal. But it's a popcorn comic. It's fun from front to back. And I mean, at the end of the day, the big bad in all this, the guy who brings the kaiju over, is Toyman. Like, the people doing this book, Brian and crew, know exactly what they're doing, and they're doing it at 100%. If you're into Godzilla and Justice League and everything, this has been such a phenomenal book that I cannot recommend enough to everybody. It's so much fun. And finally, we've got Cobra Commander number 2. This book is also written by Joshua Williamson with art by Artist-Andrea Milana. I've talked a little bit about the G.I. Joe books coming out that Joshua Williamson is doing. Twice he is on the top 5 this week, so kudos to him. I'm not a G.I. Joe guy, but Duke really sucked me in that first issue, and I really enjoyed the second issue to the point where I was like, let's try out Cobra Commander. Let's see what Joshua has in store. And read that first issue and loved it. We get Cobra Commander in this place where he's kind of a pawn in the organization. He's not the head guy. And he decides to go out and bring Cobra to the masses, to open up Cobra and say, like, this is who we are and this is what we're doing. And in doing so, goes on to the real world and does some terrible atrocities. So what we're watching here is the birth of the greatest villain in this universe. And I thought it was really well done from everything. The way Andrea handled the art and it's a time-old tradition of, the title of the comic sprawled in like the trees, but Cobra kills somebody and that's how we introduce the comic. Like, it's just so well done from top to finish, top to bottom, beginning to finish, that I feel if you're not a G.I. Joe fan, which I'm not, I want to remind everybody, I'm not a G.I. Joe guy. I didn't like the cartoons back in the day. I've never read any comics before these. The movie was like, I have no connection to G.I. Joe, and this and Duke have been some of the biggest surprises of the year for me so far. Cobra Commander is a great book, and at least that first issue was a great issue, I should say. And I'm really excited for issue 2 to get my hands. So yeah, you definitely got to check out Cobra Commander. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. Just a few plugs. If you want to watch me every week on podcast or listen to me every week on a podcast, Fortune Comic News Podcast, go there. We're on all of the podcatchers out there. If we're not on the one you're using, if you can't find us, comment down below and let me know. I will get us on that podcatcher. I promise you that. And if you want to see more of my writing, well, there will be some comic writing in the future we can talk about. But I also have the Substack, which is chriscomicscorner.substack.com. I've got a review for the new Dick Tracy book up, which is going to be coming out in a month or two. I've got my retro reread series, which I'm doing Rom the Space Knight right now, and the crowdfunding spotlight, where we spotlight a crowdfunding campaign, talk about all the things in it and why I think it's worth your time. I'm just having a blast over there, and I really appreciate if you go over there and check it out. Link to that is in the show notes, so make sure to check it out and click there. And it's all free. So free is the best price in my eyes. And if you want to support this, like, subscribe, share, comment down below on this video. And when you share with your friends. Let them know about what we're doing here. And as always, I appreciate you taking the time to sit and watch. And I will see you all here next week.